If you live in a big city like me, there are probably lots of times, at least once a day, when in traveling, either in the car, walking, or on the bus, you happen to pass somebody who looks rather shabby, someone who apparently is homeless, someone who seems to be hanging out on the street, perhaps living on the street, having no place to go, nothing to do, possibly panhandling, asking for money, maybe even having a sign. These people seem to be everywhere in our society nowadays. A community filled with people who seem to be lost, out of place, have no place to go, and for the rest of us, completely unthought of. People we simply pass by, whether we drive by, giving them only a glance, pass by them, deliberately ignore them, or walk by looking at them in disgust and going on our way. This seems to be an element of our modern-day society. Perhaps you know someone, you've heard someone talking, preaching, complaining about how in our society nobody cares for anybody anymore. Everybody is so selfish. Everybody is out for themselves, out to grab and get, either beg, borrow, or steal whatever they can for themselves, thinking only of themselves and not of the greater whole, thinking not of the community. There are the oil companies and the gas companies that are thinking only of themselves, the rich people who are thinking only of themselves, the celebrities, the politicians who seem to be doing everything only in thought for themselves, and there's no sense of community, no sense of caring for others, and oh, what a terrible state we're in. This is just awful. Recently, I paid a visit to Las Vegas, Nevada, one of the biggest, busiest cities in America. I went there on vacation, just to have fun. I was there Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday. So Thursday night, I was strolling down what's called the Strip, Las Vegas Avenue. I was going from the far north end south. I had stayed at the Stratosphere Hotel and had left the hotel and was walking down the broad sidewalk of Las Vegas Boulevard, headed to see the sights, when all of a sudden I came upon a row of orange cones stretched out across the sidewalk, and there was a police officer directing the foot traffic across the street to the sidewalk on the other side. So as I was passing by on the other side, I glanced across the street to see what the commotion was about. There was no commotion. There were simply two police cars, one at either end of a blocked-off area of the sidewalk with their orange cones, and there in the middle of the blocked-off area, leaning up against a wall between the sidewalk and an undeveloped vacant lot, there was clearly a cloth, a white cloth stretched over what was clearly a human body. A dead body. Someone had died on the sidewalk there in the middle of the Strip. As I walked along leisurely, going nowhere, with no real purpose, I wondered, how long did that person lay there? Did they go to sleep the previous night and then die in their sleep? And then all day long people passed by, either just ignoring or just giving a, look at this is terrible, some bum sleeping on the sidewalk. No one ever bothered to stop and say, hey buddy, you okay? Until finally, sometime late in the evening on Thursday evening, somebody did stop and say, hey, are you okay? And noticed that no, this person was not okay. This person was dead. How long had they been laying there dead, with people walking by, people driving by? I wonder. And in this, a society where people complain that no one cares about others, was very odd. What made this scene somewhat surreal was the fact that it occurred within 2 blocks of 3 of the most luxurious resort hotels there in Las Vegas, the Encore, the Wynn, and the Palazzo. Hotels where the smallest, cheapest rooms start at $295 a night, places where the ultra-rich stay in suites of $25,000 a night, places where people drop $2-3 million gambling in a 2 or 3 day weekend. Here, just 2 blocks from all this luxury, all this opulence, someone that no one cared for, someone that no one thought about, simply laid down in the street, went to sleep, and died. Completely unnoticed, completely unthought of. A lot of people complain that it's a cold, cruel world we live in, a cold, cruel country, where people don't care for others. Nobody notices if you have problems, and nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear about your troubles. Everybody is lost in their own world, lost with their own concerns. And oh, this is so terrible, and why doesn't somebody do something about this? It would make our country so much better if people just cared more for each other. So, a homeless man dies on the street. What does it matter? Should it matter? Well, perhaps it should. For when one of us dies, a little bit of our community dies. And when a little bit of our community dies, a little bit of each of us dies. The famous 17th century Christian writer John Donne wrote, "No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thy friends, or of thine own were. As a man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee." What is said here is that if we are to have the kind of society where people care for each other, where it's not dog eat dog, every man for himself, then a change must begin within each one of us. I'm not preaching to you, I'm preaching to me. I'm saying that I have to care about that homeless man. His death has to mean something to me. Only then can I become an element of change for my society. And only when I become an element of change for my society can my society become better. This is a responsibility not for somebody else, but for each individual. If we are to have the kind of community we want, the kind of America we want, then we must be that kind of person we say ought to be, out there caring for others, being aware, even when a homeless man dies. In this way, we make ourselves better, we make our lives richer and fuller, and we make our country better. Peace.